Hey guys, welcome to Game Dev Gold. In this series, I'm going to talk about my personal experience as an indie game developer with 20 years of experience. I want to share all the gold that I've picked up over the years with you. In today's video, we're going to talk about 5 books that I think every game developer should read. 5 books that changed the way I make games for the rest of my life. Let's jump right into it. Starting off with book number 1, we have The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. All the links to these books are going to be in the description. The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. This is the Bible, the textbook, the playbook, the master guide to making games. Literally, it talks about everything. It has a really cool layout and a really cool flow. In chapter 1, it starts off with just the designer, which would be you or me, just the game designer. And every chapter sort of adds another step and another layer to a complete game development cycle. There's a lot that goes into making a game. If you're a brand new game developer, you may not know exactly what goes into making a game. So that's why this book is really cool. It talks a lot about basically everything you can think of. Game design documents, building a team, prototyping, UI, controls. It touches on almost everything you need to know about making a game. So this is an awesome read for any developer, experienced or new, doesn't matter. I say check this book out. It'll start you off as the designer in chapter 1. And like I said, it'll keep stacking up more and more information as you go. By the end of the book, you've pretty much covered everything you need to know, at least touched on everything you need to know about making games. So again, guys, that's The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. I'm not sponsored by any of these books, but I just want to point out that this is one of my favorites and it's very technical. So this is the technical book. Moving on to book number 2, we got Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schreier. Maybe Schreier, I hope I'm not saying your name wrong. This book, instead of being technical, is more story-based, and it sort of dives into the stories of very popular games and talks a lot about what went wrong in the development of those games. My favorite chapters are Shovel Knight and Stardew Valley. The reason is those are small indie teams that had a big vision and a big goal, and it talks about their journey and their process through that. This book really helped me out through dark times of my own personal development because it highlights that making games is very difficult. So if you've never made a game before and you're hoping to jump into the world, you have to pick up this book and you have to read it. If you've been making games for a long time, if you've been in the industry for years, you have to get this book, you have to read it. It's essential reading. It highlights how the industry basically works. Like, it talks a lot about crunch. If you don't know what crunch is, it's basically saying, all right, we have this game we want to build in 2 years. This is a very simple version of crunch, but we have a game we want to build in 2 years. We have the budget, we have the timeline. All right, guys, get to work. Now we're at 2 months left and we realize, wow, we still have 8 months of work left. So guess what? Everyone's working overtime. Everyone's crunching hard on this game. Everyone's going hard on this game for the last little stretch. People work crazy hours. Sometimes it's underpaid, sometimes it's underappreciated. It's a very big problem in the video game industry, but I understand it from a business perspective because things go over budget all the time and it's very difficult to properly manage it. But this book talks about that beautifully. Now, going back to Stardew Valley and Shovel Knight, those were small indie teams just like myself, and this book talks about their journey and their process, highlights the problems they had, and it talks about the success they finally reached once they stuck it out and kept going. And that's the beauty of this book, is it shows you the stories behind the games. So I say check this book out if you're interested in game design at all. It's essential reading. All right, guys, we're talking about book number 3. It is Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull. Now, I removed my cover. It has a nice Buzz Lightyear cover. Basically what this book is Ed Catmull is one of the founders of a small, tiny little company you may have heard of called Pixar. Pixar is clearly one of the top creative companies in the world. And this book talks about how Pixar started, their journey to get to where they are, and how to create a creative team. Having a creative team is very difficult because creativity falls into the category of art. Art and business are sort of hard to balance with each other because on the art spectrum, you're experimenting a lot, you're throwing a lot of work out the window, you're trying to find what works and what doesn't. So a lot of man hours and a lot of time and energy sort of get thrown out the window because, it's not really working out. That's tough on the business side because, hey, we're paying for these artists, we're paying for these designers. we're paying for this process. We don't like throwing out that work. So it's a very tough balancing act. But I think this book touches on that amazingly. Me personally, I have worked with contractors and I've worked with small teams before, but my goal in the future is to have an amazingly stacked, creative, dedicated, awesome team under me. The idea is I need to learn how to properly manage that and make that work in a creative facet where I give them creative freedom to express themselves and to put their blood and sweat and love into the work that we're doing. But that's hard to do from a business perspective. So I needed to make sure that I at least sort of understand what I'm getting myself into. And this book just was the perfect book for that. If you work in a team, if you're planning to hire a team, if you want to understand creativity from a team, or even if you just like Pixar, check this book out. It's awesome. Again, links to all the books are down in the description. Definitely check this one out. Moving on to book 4, we have The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. This book has nothing to do with game development, but everything to do with game development. What do I mean? Well, he's not technically talking about game development, but he's talking about sort of a philosophy on life and how you can sort of look at things a little bit differently. And I'll talk about a story that this book really changed the way I make game development for the rest of my life. The idea behind this book is that the compound effect is that the small daily things add up over time and they stack on top of each other, creating a huge difference in the future. So if you're doing negative habits or positive habits, over time, those are going to compound either in a good positive direction or in a not so good direction, in a negative direction, right? So let me tell you the story about how this book changed the way I make games forever. So I was sitting on a riverbank with my wife and I'm reading through this book. And this was a time before I was successful and before I launched Lone Wolf, before I made any money, before I was a professional game designer. And I didn't treat my work like a professional. I was kind of a slacker. I would get on the computer, I would open my programs, I'd mess around for a little bit. And then I would just be distracted on YouTube or Instagram or any other thing, right? What this book showed me was like a chapter talked about tracking. And what it said was, if you want to take something seriously, you should track what you're actually doing. How that worked with game design was, all right, I said, I'm going to put a piece of paper beside my workstation. I'm going to fire up my work. And every time I get distracted, I'm going to put a little tick. And every hour I complete, I'm going to write the number. So 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour. Oh, it was not pretty. When I first started this process, it really opened my eyes to how lazy and lame I was at making these games. I was distracted like constantly, like 30 ticks of distractions. Just all day, something popped up and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out. Oh, there's a tick, there's a tick, there's a tick. And I'd work maybe 2 or 3 hours. It was embarrassing. Before that, I thought, you know what? I'm working all the time. Like I'm here on the computer, I'm putting in the work, stuff's happening. But when I really tracked it and made it a reality to see what was actually going on, changed everything. I looked at that and I said, you know what? This is embarrassing. I want to be professional. I want to make this my career. Let's get back in there. Let's get to work and let's make this change. Over time, slowly, I got to 40 hours a week of actually focused, dedicated work time with 0 distractions. The productivity went through the freaking roof. It was insane how different my life was. And I will never work the same again without tracking what I'm doing, because in your head, you're a rock star. Everyone's a rock star in their head. They're kicking butt. They lie to themselves all the time. They lie to the world all the time. It's human nature. I'm guilty of it. Everyone I know is guilty of it. It's just the way things go. But when you track things and put it into reality, man, it will change your perspective. So this book is full of that kind of gold. It's like, hey, be focused, be productive, and understand that over time, those little things that you're doing daily are going to make a huge impact down the road. Definitely check this book out if you're kind of in that entrepreneur game development mindset and you want to find success in what you're doing. All right, guys, we are now talking about book number 5, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Another not game development book that really helps with game development. What I mean by that is money is a touchy, weird subject. I used to have the mindset of money's evil. If you make money, you must be doing something evil. Why are we even talking about money? This isn't about money. We're creating art. We're creating video games. Like, get money off the table. But that's the wrong way to look at this, because you have to make money. How long can you make games if you don't make money? Let's say you're an indie developer and you want to do this full time as a career. You're not going to get far if you don't make money. Let's say you work in a studio. What happens if they don't pay you? You're not going to work there for very long. You're not going to be making games. So money is actually an essential thing you need to get into your mind. What this book does is it highlights how a poor person's mentality looks and how a rich person's mentality looks. Hence the name Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Basically what this book talks about is poor people sort of have a viewpoint of the world, and the rich people that have the opposite viewpoint of the world, they get more opportunities and they see more good things in the world, and they understand money, and they understand money is a good thing. They are happy to promote themselves and promote their gains. It's just a whole mindset shift. I was a poor person mentality. After reading this book, I realized, wow, I've been looking at things the wrong way. And over years of like recalibrating my brain with this book, it helped me think like, I want to be rich. I want to make money. Now I sort of have the mindset to make money, and I've been making more money with my games than I ever thought was possible. Before I thought, as long as I can do this for a living, I'm happy. That's all I want. I don't want to have to work another job. I want to make games full time. I want to have enough money that money stress is off my plate and I can just focus on making the games. That would be awesome. I got there and beyond because I have the mindset that I want to make money. I want to make lots of money. I want to do good things with the money. I want to hire a team, produce bigger and better games. But to do all that, I needed that money mindset. So guys, that's why this book can really help you out, especially if you're a small indie game developer and you're just starting out. Start training your mind. Even if you work in a company and you're sort of lower on the rung, you can start training your mind to just accept more and treat yourself as a more valuable member of the team just by shifting your mindset to a rich person's mindset. I promise you, if you really get into this book and understand the concepts, it will change your life. All right, guys, that's 5 books. But wait, there's more. I'm going to talk about a bonus book. But first, you know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Helps me bring this channel to a wider audience and lets me know you guys like this content and want more of it. All right, guys, here it is. Bonus book 6. An art book. So this one in particular is Dreaming in Mech. I don't know if we can read that, but I'll have the picture and the links in the description, of course. This one's by Nivan Chantara. It's one of my favorite art books I've ever had. I have lots of art books. I have The Art of Metal Gear Solid 5 back there, The Art of The Last of Us, The Art of Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4. These books are awesome for game developers because they are full of inspiration and they're full of getting you motivated to work. When you flip through one of these books that, it could be any art style. There's art books for all kinds of video games. I happen to have the ones for my favorite video games. But they get you fired up. You flip through, you're checking out these creative masterpieces really, and it just makes you want to dive in and start creating yourself. And I think that's a very valuable thing because some days you get into work, you don't really feel like working that much. Flip open one of these books, start getting that mojo and get in there and start creating. The other really cool thing about these art books is that when you see a finished masterpiece like The Last of Us by Naughty Dog, you think, wow, these guys just got it down pat. They just know what they're doing and they just make these masterpieces happen. When you get these art books, you realize that there's a lot of early stage sketching and concepts and not really knowing what direction the whole entire vision of the game is going to go. They sort of have the vision in place, but to get there, they have to go through those like, all right, we're going to do 100 sketches and get rid of 99 of them, and that one perfect one is where we're going to go. So it's super inspiring to see that these AAA geniuses in the game industry still have to go through that iterative process of concept art, throwing things out the window and just sketching. It shows you that that's the way to do it. Like you need to have that creative flow and creative process where you're just trying out all kinds of different ideas until you find the one that like this is the one, this is what we're looking for. So it's super cool to get that from those art books as well. All right, guys, that's 6 essential books I think will help any game developer. They totally changed my life, so I highly recommend you guys check them out. If you guys like this content, this is a new series I'm doing called Game Dev Gold, where I talk about all the golden information I've picked up over a 20-year game development career, and I want to share it with you guys. If you guys like the content, let me know by hitting like, subscribe, comment, anything you want me to talk about. I'll talk about money, I'll talk about this, I'll talk about that. I'm happy to talk about whatever you guys want to know about the game design world that I can share with from my own personal experience. Thanks for checking this out. I'm very happy to be sharing the knowledge, and I hope you guys really like this content, and I can't wait to bring more.